Hi, we're Quaint and Curious Volumes, and today I'm going to talk about The House of the Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne. It's weird to hold up this book and talk about it because this is an omnibus with four other novels in it. One, two, three, four. No. But this is Gablepril, the month of the year where we look into gables and figure out just what's going on with that whole situation. So we're reading The House of the Seven Gables, Hedda Gabler, and Anne of Green Gables. This is the first week of April, and I had suggested that we read the first 10 chapters of The House of the Seven Gables. So that's what I've done, and I'm going to talk to you about my experience reading those chapters. So this book starts off with a preface in which Nathaniel Hawthorne says, this book is a romance, by which he means it's a work of imagination. And you might be tempted to attach this place that I'm describing to a particular place in New England and attach the house that is so central to it to a particular house. But don't do that. Is essentially what he's saying. Even though we know that he was inspired to write this house by a particular house that was owned by a relative of his and went back a long time in his family's history. After this book came out, it was a big hit, and people did become interested in just where it was based on. The house was later, at the time that Hawthorne visited it and got his inspiration, it had been renovated to the point where it only had three gables. It was very much modernized. Well, 19th century modernized. And then later it became a museum and was returned to kind of an earlier state. They put the gables back on, took a porch out. Anyway, it's pretty interesting. And there is a YouTube channel run by someone named Kendrick Kendrick Gaylord, and she kind of runs down some of that history, which is interesting. I will link to it below. It does contain something that might be construed as a spoiler for House of the Seven Gables. So maybe if you're concerned about that, don't watch it until you finish the book. Anyway, so that's the preface. And then the first chapter, the old Pinchin family, takes us back from the present, about 1850 or so, to the 17th century, the 1600s, the era of the Salem witch trials. And there is a man named Maul, who is a humble carpenter and has acquired a piece of land on the outskirts of town, which has a very good spring, and he's content living there. But another man, a more prominent person in the town named Colonel Pinchin, covets this piece of land. He wants to get it for himself, and he conspires to get it by having Maul accused and convicted of witchcraft and thus sentenced to die. While Maul is standing on the gallows about to be executed, he calls down a curse upon Pinchin. He says, "Pinchin, God will give you blood to drink." And then he is executed, and Pinchin's like, whatever. In fact, is so cocky. Well, he acquires this land now that old Maul is gone. He acquires his land, demolishes the little hut that is there, the little cottage, and builds a great house. And in fact, hires Maul's son to be the carpenter. He's all set to move in. He has a great housewarming party, you would call it. Everyone is there. Colonel Pinchin has not come out of his room. They break into the room. They find that he is dead. He is covered in blood. There is no sign of foul play, but he's definitely dead. So, the beginning of the curse of the Pinchin family. Then the next chapter, the little shop window. Well, we run ahead in time about 150 years, and we see there is but one Pinchin left living in this house, the house of the Seven Gables, that was built by Maul's son for Colonel Pinchin. And this woman's name is Hepzibah. She's never married, she has no children, she has a brother who is absent, and she's running out of money. She needs some money, so she opens a little store. And we see her on the first day of operating the store. For her, this is a great come down in status because she had been a lady from a prominent family of Pinchins, and now she's a shopkeeper. Her first customer comes in, and he is actually a boarder. So she's divided off a part of the house into rooms that she lets to this young man named Holgrave, who is in his early 20s. He's a bit of a radical, a bit of an eccentric, a bit of a bohemian, you would say, in a later, to use a later locution. He is also a daguerreotypist. The daguerreotype is, an early form of photography. So, maybe an artist. He comes in, they have some words he's encouraging to her, and offers to make a purchase. She demurs. She gives him some biscuits for free and says, "I can't charge my boarder for something." So he goes off to his work for the day, and she gets her next customer, who's a little boy and wants to buy some gingerbread. She has so Hepzibah has several gingerbreads in the shape of various animals and also in the shape of Jim Crows, so-called. Jim Crow, I presume, is a kind of gingerbread man shaped like a dancing minstrel performer. Jim Crow was the stage name of T.D. Rice. This is sidebar. Jim Crow was the stage name of T.D. Rice, who was a minstrel entertainer in the Midwest, who created this character that did a comical dance and song. It became very popular in the 19th century. One of the foundations of minstrelsy, and was a caricature of Black Americans, and so that name became attached to. I'm not sure exactly how that particular piece of American racism became attached to a legal scheme in the 20th century. Story for another time. Anyway, so when he says he's looking for Jim Crows, these are little gingerbread men, shaped like a dancing man. And at first, Hepzibah will not take any money from the little boy, so he goes outside, eats his cookie, and, well, I mean, the little boy knows, all right, I'm getting free cookies here, I'm going to go back in and get some more. But she charges him money the next time. The little boy comes back a few times later in the book. He's always looking to eat some gingerbread. So then we spend a whole day behind the counter with Hepzibah. So this a big chunk of the book is just this old woman running basically a convenience store in a small town, and people go by and comment on it, if they think she'll be successful or not, and how she must be feeling about coming down in the world. She has a cousin, Jaffrey, who is a Judge Pinchin, who's kind of a little bit estranged. I mean, they'll talk to each other, but they're not friendly with each other for reasons we don't exactly know. At the end of the day, an omnibus rolls up, and a young woman gets out, a teenage girl, and comes up to the door and introduces herself as Phoebe. So Phoebe Pinchin is a distant cousin who grew up on a farm. Phoebe Pinchin has been set adrift in the world to go make her own way, and she says she's just showing up to visit. She doesn't mean to stay, but it becomes apparent that she is good at working in the shop, and she becomes a sort of more permanent part of the household. She moves in with Hepzibah, helps with the cooking, helps run the shop. Everyone is happy, and I think it is the next day. The chronology is a little fuzzy. Maybe if I would have to go back and read it again to be sure, but they're having breakfast the next day, and there is sound heard coming from upstairs, and someone comes in, this mysterious older gentleman with long gray hair. This turns out to be Clifford. Clifford is Hepzibah's brother, who's been absent for a long time. Clifford comes in and is very strange. It's hard to understand what's going on with this guy. He seems very emotional. He seems very scared of things. He sleeps a lot. And there is a prominent painted portrait of Colonel Pinchin that Clifford is terrified of and wants taken down. For some reason, Hepzibah says, we can't take that down. You know we can't take that down. But we'll cover it up. So they cover it up. What's up with that? Anyway, Clifford and Phoebe, they become kind of friendly with each other. They get to know each other. They work out in the garden a bit. Also, Holgrave, he works out in the garden a bit. So Phoebe is very good at tending to flowers. And there's a flock of chickens on the property that have been kind of neglected. But she starts taking care of them, and they're starting to give eggs. There's also a well out back called Maul's Well, and everyone is cautioned, don't drink out of that well. Don't splash any water on yourself from that well. That well is trouble. But the chickens, they like to eat the snails that go around that well. And Clifford sometimes likes to look into the well. So, let's see. Today, at a certain point, Jaffrey comes by. He sees Clifford there, and Hepzibah. He offers them some financial help, and they reject it. They would rather starve than take money from Jaffrey. They don't like Jaffrey. Jaffrey thinks he's better than everybody. Okay, and that's about where we leave it. I think at the end of chapter 10, the Pinchin Garden. This might be getting ahead. It's not really a spoiler, but Phoebe is going to church, and she's being she's the only one in the house who goes to church. But one day Clifford says to Hepzibah, all right, maybe we can go to church. And they get all dressed up and ready to go. And they get to the door to leave. And he says, you know what? We can't go outside. Clifford has issues. That well is trouble. Why can't they take down the portrait of Colonel Pinchin? What's going on with all this? It's a real conundrum. Holgrave seems to know things that he shouldn't know. I guess it's just a mystery. We'll have to keep reading to find out. So next week, we'll read the final 11 chapters of The House of the Seven Gables. We'll find out what's going on. We'll get to the bottom of the well. We'll see what's up with that painting. Yeah. So, have you been reading The House of the Seven Gables? What do you think so far? If you're midway like me. I'm a little past midway. But that's why I'm talking about this today. I hope you like it. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.